I'm Chad Eckert, and that's not Eric Martins. Today, you are watching the Fantasy Golf Pod interview series. The next guest that I have is someone who you can go to find smart golf bets. That's right. We got Mike Miller, Smart Golf Bets on Twitter, smartgolfbets.com. Mike, welcome. Thank you for coming on. How are you?
Hey, Chad. Thanks for having me. I'm good.
Awesome. So, Mike, you, let's say right off the bat, I wanted to let you know, hey, your website, your advice has helped me cash a mega profit. I actually took down a GPP last January, which is a DraftKings thing. I won $400 off of 25 cents because of your advice, Mike.
It's beautiful.
You touted Wyndham Clark at 400 to 1 at the Farmers Insurance Open. You said, hey, you know what? I even looked up the tweet to remind myself. You said, Wyndham Clark, I'm going to add him to my tips because he could maybe get a top 20, a top 10. And I'm like, top 10? 400 to 1? Let's go. I think he was like in the $6,000 range in DraftKings. He was like 1% owned. This was the guy that helped me win. So you touted that. You're the man. It's a DraftKings thing to win a GPP. Do you play DraftKings, or are you just a bettor because you're Smart Golf Bets? But I mean, I use your stuff for GPPs, like I said, and for DraftKings. But do you play DraftKings? Can you even play DraftKings over there in Africa?
Actually, to be honest, I've never tried.
Okay.
I know a little bit about DFS and played it a long time ago for fun, like 15 years ago. But for me, it's all about betting. So you know, if I win, I know what I'm winning.
Right. Now, before we get too far into this pod, let's ask you quick. Your website, smartgolfbets.com. Tell us a little bit about that. It's a website that has information each week, tournament sheets. Is it free? Everything's free, right?
Yeah, it's free. Well, certainly at the moment. But you know, if this COVID-19 thing goes on much longer, I might have to start charging. But it's something I did privately as a hobby. And then I quit a job and got a big payout, and I thought I don't have to work for a couple of years. That was about 2011. So I got a Twitter account and did a website and just started publishing it to see if there was any interest. And the interest just grew and grew and grew. And I started covering more and more and more, and the hobby became all-encompassing. 20 hours a week.
It is a great resource. I use it every week. I go to your website, smartgolfbets.com, and I hit the tournament sheets, and then I go to whatever tournament I'm interested in looking at, and usually it's the PGA Tour. But you cover all the tours because you're basically worldwide Mike Miller.
Yeah, I'm the OG of sheets, that's for sure. But also for betting purposes, the PGA is a very highly evolved market with a lot of analysis, a lot of tipsters, a lot of stats. So for gamblers like me, sometimes the value is to be found in South Africa or Japan or Malaysia. So it was purely selfish, the interest in the lesser tournaments.
Now, okay, so with that said, where are you in the world? Because you don't sound like an American with a little bit of an accent there. Where are you quarantined? Have you always been quarantined there? Tell us a little bit about yourself in the background there.
Well, I'm in Uganda at the moment, quarantined. We're in about day 30 of a 35-day lockdown. We've got a few places here. We've got a property we're developing in the city in Kampala, and we've got an apartment there. But we're also developing a property out in the countryside. Wouldn't even be on a map, I don't think. And so we're locked down there at the moment. But I managed to lease a little studio, one-room studio with a bathroom, which I'm sitting in at the moment, so I can get a bit of peace and quiet away from the babies and all the other people who come wandering around the place.
Now, did you just have twins? I can't remember. You have kids, right? You have a couple. Are they newborns or?
Yeah, a 9-month-old twins, boy and a girl.
Dude, twins! I can't even imagine. I got a 4-month-old.
Life to be doing.
Dude, yeah, that's insane.
It is. At my stage of life, it's complete and utter insanity. But there you go.
Now, you were mentioning that you're in quarantine for the 30th day. You're in Uganda, is that right? Is that what you said?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's like right on
Just
the
about on
equator.
yep, exactly on the equator, actually.
Quite the stark difference from me, who I'm in Minnesota in my garage. I almost put a jacket on. Is it hot there?
It's not too bad. It's about, most days it's about between 26 and 32. That's
Okay.
Celsius. What would that be, Fahrenheit? 90?
Yeah. Um, is there social distancing going on there?
Yeah, there is. Although people joke about it. I think Uganda's tested about 12 or 14,000 people out of 45 million, which is not a lot. They haven't got a lot of money. But there's only been like 80 cases, 50 have recovered, no deaths.
Okay.
And a lot of the country is rural, so there's automatic distancing.
I was going to ask you about the ability to golf. Are you a golfer? Do you play?
I used to. I played from the age of 8, but a really bad, I think I called it tennis elbow, sort of kicked in when I was about 50. I've given it a couple of tries since, but after 6 or 8 holes, the old pain comes back. There's a nice golf course in Kampala. It's part of a country club, which I actually belong to, but I've never played there. Occasionally, I just get a driver and a 5-wood and just go there and smash a few balls until my arm hurts.
Yeah, exactly. Now, what is it like then? Is it more link style there, or is it there? I mean, are they flooding the courses with water? Like, how does that work? I'm sorry for being ignorant, I guess.
The courses are mostly parklands here, and there's only 2 seasons, wet and dry. So, in the wet season, they're pretty lush, and you get a fair bit of insect and other life around, like fucking snakes. And in the dry season, they're pretty hard and dry, and the ball rolls a bit further, and the rough doesn't grow. So, yeah, it's okay.
You kind of are that guy on Twitter that has some stories. Has seen some tweets that are quite entertaining. About I feel like you're kind of like you're living a scarier life than a normal tout is living. Do you have any scary stories or fun stories from being next to the equator in Africa? Is that crazy?
Well, for me, all those things, I've been here on and off for 7 years. I came over to help some guys set up a betting business, which is now set up and running nicely. I did all the hard work on the ground in Uganda, Kenya, Nigeria, Zambia, Ghana. We're running in all those countries now, although, of course, the business is off about 90% at the moment because there's no fucking sport to bet on. So, yeah, I mean, in the course of that, I've been threatened with arrest by tax officers. I've met a snake, a really big snake, probably, I don't know, it must have been 14 feet, real close up. But having been in the gambling industry for 20 years, in some interesting countries like, say, Costa Rica, for example, I can tell you horror stories about that place. And having been on the sort of edge of legitimate gambling in Asia and so on, I've been threatened. I've twice looked down the barrel of a gun.
Now, because you're a family man now, you got the twins, are you kind of calming yourself down? You're not putting yourself in those situations anymore?
Well, I mean, it's a bit difficult to avoid all those situations when you're in East Africa, but yeah, you're right. I mean, just yesterday, I had an argument with a guy and I was going to punch him. And very quickly I had the thought of, you just shouldn't. You'll get arrested, you'll have to pay them a lot of money. Could get complicated. So yeah, having the kids is calm things.
Good. Okay. You mentioned that you set up a betting service. Was it a system? Would you talk a little bit about that? And is it legal to bet on things where you are? How do you bet?
Yeah, it's a legit setup here. The governments in the various countries license betting companies. So we've got 7 of them. The company's called Bet Power, PAWA. It's only available in those 7 countries because our payment system is mobile money. So no credit cards, no bank transfers. You just do it off your phone.
Sure.
And tiny micro amounts, but yeah, it's going really well. I mean, the company recently got valued in excess of $100 million.
Oh, wow. Nice.
And I was going to sell some shares in it when fucking COVID-19 came along. So I have to wait a while for that. I was going to cash out.
Okay. When did you get started in this betting stuff? I mean, you're saying that you're not a young whippersnapper anymore and you've done this for 20 years. How did it start? What was the interest level? Was it fantasy sports first, or did you always want to just bet? I mean, where did you start?
I sort of had an epiphany when I was about 38. I think I was 36 or 38. I'd been a normal guy all my life, you know, trying to climb the corporate ladder, wearing a fucking monkey suit to work, being a good citizen, paying my taxes. And I had a fairly good executive job, and I decided I wanted a better one. So I went along to a consultant, one of those high-level recruiters, said, get me something better. I want a better company car, I want a bigger salary, I want better benefits, blah, blah. And he said, oh, man, you're getting a bit old. You're in your 30s and you don't have an MBA. Anyway, I took 2.5, 3 years off and did an MBA, and then after that I set myself up as a management consultant. And the same day I got offered 2 jobs. I got offered a cushy job for $3,000 a week for 9 months in New Zealand, in my hometown in Wellington. And the same day I got offered a 3-month, $3,000 a week, the one I got offered in New Zealand, and $600 a week in Australia. So I took the Australian one because it sounded like more of an adventure. It was with a sports betting company that had just started. And during that MBA, one of my classmates said, hey, have you heard about the internet? This was 1993. He said, have you heard about the internet? And I said, nah. He said, well, come to my office after work, I'll show you. So he logged in, got online, and went to a site called Alta Vista, which I think was the only search engine in the world. There was no Yahoo, no Google. He said, you can type a word in here and it'll search through its database and it'll bring you back some results. I said, oh, fucking bullshit. Anyway, I was a stamp collector, and stamp collection is known as philately. So I thought, oh, fuck this Alta Vista. So I just typed in philately, and it returned like bang, 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 bang. After about 10 seconds, it returned a page full of results. And at that moment, I thought, I've got to get into some business on the internet. So the hook when I went to do some management consulting with this Australian company was, they said, we want to get on the internet, and we also want to do it in multiple languages, and we want to do credit card transactions online, which was unheard of in those days. And we did all of that in the next year, and then I became CEO, and then they sold the business for 20 million, and I stayed in the industry. So I've had a few jobs, a few directorships, mostly shortish term consultancies, so that I could get a big chunk of money and then not work for 3 months, just go on holiday and drink and gamble and womanize.
Boom. Love that.
So I did that on and off for 15 years.
Okay. And then you settled down and you got you're now, what, are you married?
Yeah. A woman got me again. My okay. One weakness, my big weakness.
Well, let's talk about you and your betting, and more or less, I talked about how I used your advice and I scored $400 off 25 cents. That's pretty serious. Now, have you ever had a hashtag mega profit, something you're proud of and that you put in the trophy case? Do you have a bet that you use as your shining moment?
Yes. It would have been 2011. What I used to do was I had a staking plan where I wouldn't spend more than $300 a week. So every week I'd invest $300, win, lose or draw. So what I used to do is take doubles, each way doubles. So if you got top 5 with top 5, you got a payout. I'd do that across 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 tournaments, as many as I could find. And late 2011, I sorted out a guy called Tadahiro Takayama in Japan. I rated him 40 to 1. and the market opened at 150 to 1. So I thought, well, he's going in all my doubles this week, and I'm going to back him as well. And the same week was the South African Open, and Henny Otto was at 25 to 1. No, I rated him 25 to 1, and he was paying 50s. So I put a bunch of golfers together in some doubles. The Takayama Otto double was 7,500 to 1. I finished up with about $5.50 worth of that, and I backed Takayama to win in each way with about, I think all the bookmakers in the world who were betting on it was about 6. And I backed Otto as well. So I picked up in all around about 55,000 for my 300 outlay. Yeah.
All right. Well, that'll pay for some bets. You'll get a few weeks worth of bets off that.
I paid for an extended family in Indonesia for 2 years, including buying a car.
Nice, dude. That's awesome. Well, that's fun. Do you do fantasy sports at all? Are you into fantasy football? Do you watch? It's 7 hours later there. So typically are you watching American sports at all?
The only American sport that screens on cable here is NBA, and I gave up on NBA when Michael Jordan retired, so I don't watch any American sport. I just support a couple of teams. Patriots, which has been good. Pittsburgh Steelers. NBA, my favourite team was, after Jordan, was the Lakers. So, just big name teams. You sort of take an interest a couple of times a year. But no, I don't watch. And I don't play any fantasy either.
Okay. What about your golf process? Each week, you put out these sheets for all of the tours. So this requires a hell of a database or a lot of effort. I don't know how you do it. What's your process like, and how do you get all the information? Where are you finding? Explain sort of like what we can find on smartgolfbets.com.
Well, I try and cover every tournament on which there's betting, which is 3 rounds or more, which is as many as 12 tournaments a week and as few as 4. Every one is from a recognised proper tour, so they all have a website, so they all have a field. So as soon as a field comes up, like the PGA, it's 5:30 p.m. Fridays. European Tour, it's like a week earlier. It varies from tour to tour, but I construct fields before tournament week. Then over the weekend, I price them all. I price every player in every tournament before the market opens, which is something I'd probably recommend to serious TFS players. Do your own salaries before the market comes out, because I'm looking for value. You guys are looking for value too. I mean, you've got the extra element of how owned is the guy going to be, but if you think his salary should be 9,600 and it's 8,000,
that's your guy.
I might point you in a particular direction. I started the software off in 2010, so I've been entering results into it weekly since then. So it's just a matter of keeping on top of it. It's half ruined a couple of family holidays, but you just can't stop.
Okay, your sheets, what I use, you look at this spreadsheet. Basically, it's got the name, it's got Mike's odds, it's got some stuff about their age and world ranking or whatever, I don't know. And then it has recent form and course history, both. I mean, whatever the length of, 12 weeks? I mean, you got a long recent form, don't you?
Yeah, I can do up to 26 weeks. I usually just play about 12 and maybe 10 years of course form.
Okay.
But if there's no course form, maybe I'll put in 18 weeks of recent form just to fill the screen.
Are you more of a recent form guy, or are you more of a course history guy? Are you a recent form or course history? Are you a course history truther? What do you rely on more?
Recent form by far. In fact, I've calculated the extent to which you should rely on one or the other, and I attach that to every course in my database. It averages out at about 6% course form, 94% recent form.
Okay.
There's a few courses where the course form element is as high as 20%. The same players seem to perform well there year after year after year. And there's a lot of courses where course form's completely irrelevant. But I just publish it because that's all I've got. I don't believe in shot statistics because I think they're already included in the form. So yeah, from 2010, it basically hasn't changed.
Right.
And I've won money betting every year since 2010 as well.
Okay. As you talk about how you're using every tour that has a field in your process, and you're going out and finding these tours that have maybe some vulnerability. Is there a tour in the top of your head that you're like, hey, I love this tour because they're just kind of asleep at the wheel when they're making their odds? Is there a fun tour that we should go seek out to maybe get some value?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say they're asleep at the wheel. There's probably only 2 or 3 bookmakers in the world who price golf.
Okay.
And I communicate with them all on Twitter every week, and they're good. But they're never going to hold as much on South African golf or Asian golf or Japanese golf or women's golf as they are on the big tournaments on the European and PGA Tour. So they have slightly less of a care factor. And then the other element with these lesser tours is they've never seen them. They've never seen any of the players. They've got no feel for it. And if you've tracked a player through the next tour down, the next level down, and he's coming in this week, you can rate him a 50 to 1 shot, and the bookies might make him 300. So I live for those opportunities because that's what I bet on as soon as the market opens.
What about this outlaw tour? Are you doing any outlaw tour?
Yeah, I'm doing every one of those, but really just to fill the time. It's hard to get too serious. Right. But the tours that I'd say you can sometimes get a pretty interesting price would be the Sunshine Tour in South Africa, the JGTO, Japan Men's Tour, and the Champions Tour in the US. They're the 3 where I most often find a fair bit of variance and make money.
Okay. Do you bet head-to-heads, or what's your betting card look like on a weekly basis?
I bet solely on to win a tournament. Head-to-heads, I can't get 100 to 1, 200 to 1, 300 to 1. So there's no excitement level for me there. And also, I haven't got the time to be that interested. My software produces head-to-head prices and top 10 prices and top 20. But I just bet outright when the market's open. Then I do all my doubles later in the cycle, Wednesday night, Thursday morning. And then I do another set of single bets and doubles either after round 1 or after round 2.
Okay. So are you having money on about a dozen people then overall, basically, or about 10 people, a little less than 10?
I limit it to 5 per tournament.
Okay.
And I don't bet shorter than 50 to 1. So I don't bet on anybody shorter than 50. Okay. Or plus 5,000, whatever you call it. And on the ladies and the seniors tours, the lower limit is 30 to 1 because they're smaller fields and there's less players who can win. I've just found that over time. So I'm typically having 2, 3, 5 single bets, and I'm typically putting 2 to 5 players from every tournament.
Futures, and if you're going to bet on maybe a future in this fall, do you do future bets?
I just constructed a field for the Masters in November because the field's now set at 96. But it's a little bit problematical because at this point no one's played for 3 or 4 or 5 months. So I think any pricing or betting would only be really meaningful maybe in September, August, September. And the fields for the other majors that are going to happen, like the US Open or the PGA, they're not really known. So the Masters is really the only one that you can, I think bet with a little bit of confidence on a few months in advance. Okay. I've never won one though. I've been doing it for a long time.
What about the next step, the next thing for you? Smart Golf Pets 2.0. you say you have this software. Are you going to start charging for it and letting people play around with it? Or are you going to maybe try to do something like that?
Yeah, I thought about that. It's really a question of finding the right partner. I've got a skill set in a database, but I don't have anything else.
Right.
And I've spoken to a couple of people recently, actually, with a view to going in a new direction after this pandemic cools down a bit. I was going to commercialize it. In fact, I did in 2014 for a little while, but my American partner turned out to be a thief and a criminal, and actually eventually got arrested by the FBI.
Whoa. I'm telling you, Mike, you got stories, man. I'm telling you. It's great.
I'll tell you sometime about the time I fled a betting company I was managing in Costa Rica by swimming across a river with all my possessions and 40 grand cash in a plastic bag on my back into Nicaragua.
Dude, why did you're holding back on me?
It was a bad week, man. It was a bad week.
Yeah, maybe you don't want those stories on the internet forever.
No, I've still got an issue with the guy who ran that company, and if I ever meet him, I'll probably kill him. But he may feel the same about me.
Well, I'm losing you again.
Yeah, some interesting stories. In this industry, it's inevitable.
Right. Hey, Mike, you are the man. Everybody uses your website. We really appreciate all the time and effort that you put into this smartgolfbets.com. If you're not already using that, go use it. It's free. Might as well use it before he starts charging for it. And if you don't follow him on Twitter, do, because he does give advice. He's up late. He lives in Africa, so he's up at the crack of dawn and then Wednesday nights, tweeting out stuff, tweeting out tips. Wyndham Clark tip. That could set you free. That could get you a GPP win. SmartGolfBets.com, @SmartGolfBets. Mike Miller, thanks for joining me, man. I really appreciate your time. Enjoy your day. Stay safe out there. Thanks, dude.